family legacies. We all have them, but how many of us truly understand their impact? Today, we're diving into a story that spans generations and continents, revealing how one man's journey shaped an entire family's destiny.
Oh, that sounds fascinating. Where does this intriguing tale begin?
Well, our story starts in 1945 when a man named Gustavo moved his family to Tecate, Mexico. Now, Tecate isn't just any town, it's actually recognized as a pueblo mágico, or magic town, by the Mexican government. This designation is given to places with symbolic attributes, legends, and history that emanate magic in all their social and cultural manifestations.
That's quite an interesting setting. Did this magical quality play into Gustavo's story in any way?
You know, it just might have. In 1949, Gustavo and his wife experienced what many would call a miracle. Their youngest son, Luis Emmanuel, was born under some pretty dramatic circumstances. The baby was in a difficult position, and the umbilical cord was wrapped around his neck, a situation that could have ended tragically. But thanks to some skilled medical intervention, Luis was delivered safely.
Wow, talk about a dramatic entrance into the world. Do you think this experience had a lasting impact on the family?
Absolutely. Events like these often shape a family's narrative and beliefs. In fact, it might have contributed to Gustavo's spiritual journey later in life. But before we get to that, let's talk about how Gustavo established himself in Tecate.
Right, I'm curious about that. How did he make a living in this new town?
Well, Gustavo found work at the Cuauhtémoc Moctezuma brewery, which is famous for producing Tecate beer. But he didn't just clock in and out in 1954, he became part of the founding board of the Cuauhtémoc and Famosa Society. This shows his commitment to not just his job, but to the community as a whole.
That's impressive. It seems like Gustavo was always looking for ways to be involved and make a difference. But you mentioned earlier about his spiritual journey. What happened there?
Ah, yes. So, for a while, Gustavo was involved with Freemasonry, which caused some distance between him and the Catholic Church. But life has a way of bringing us full circle sometimes. When Luis had a motorcycle accident, Gustavo had a moment of clarity that changed everything.
Oh, what happened during that pivotal moment?
Well, Gustavo noticed that his fellow Masons didn't visit Luis in the hospital, but Father Manuel Valladolid did. This simple act of kindness and compassion deeply moved Gustavo, and he decided to return to his Catholic faith. I can only imagine how happy this made his wife, Guadalupe, who was an active member of the church and a devoted Guadalupana.
It's fascinating how these seemingly small moments can have such a profound impact on our lives. And speaking of fascinating, I heard Gustavo had some pretty intriguing experiences beyond his work and faith. Is that true?
Oh, absolutely. Gustavo's grandson, Luis Rafael, shared some pretty incredible stories. Apparently, Gustavo had experiences with astral travel, encounters with spirits, and strange lights near his home in Tijuana. It's the kind of stuff that makes you wonder about the mysteries of the universe, doesn't it?
It certainly does. And there was even a rumor about a small treasure hidden near where these spiritual phenomena were seen, right? It's like something out of a magical realism novel.
Exactly. It adds this air of mystery and adventure to Gustavo's life. But it wasn't all supernatural experiences. Gustavo also had a passion for more earthly pursuits, like stargazing. He would often spend time in his front yard in Tecate, looking up at the night sky. And occasionally, he'd spot something that he couldn't explain, flying objects that left him in awe.
There must have been quite a sight. You mentioned earlier that Tecate was a safe, peaceful town. What was life like for Gustavo and his family there?
Well, Tecate in those days was the kind of place where people often left their doors unlocked. Gustavo and his family lived next to the well-known Downey neighborhood, which I imagine added to that sense of community. It was an ideal environment for raising a family and indulging in hobbies like stargazing.
It sounds like a wonderful place to call home. Did Gustavo have any other interests or hobbies?
Oh, absolutely. Gustavo was a man of many talents. He had a vast collection of technical books, particularly on electricity. This speaks to his lifelong love of learning and his technical mind. And let's not forget about his passion for music. Gustavo was skilled with both the piano and guitar, a talent he passed down to his son Luis Emmanuel and several of his grandchildren.
That's wonderful. Did any of his descendants pursue music professionally?
As a matter of fact, yes. His grandson Juan Carlos became a talented musician and performed in a popular local band. They even had the opportunity to open for the famous Café Tacuba during the Tecate and Marcha Fair. But what's really heartwarming is that Gustavo, despite his age, attended Juan Carlos's concerts with enthusiasm. It's a beautiful example of how shared passions can forge special bonds across generations.
That's such a lovely image, this elderly man, with all his life experiences, sitting in the audience and beaming with pride as his grandson performs on the stage. It really brings Gustavo's story full circle, doesn't it?
It really does. And it's a reminder of the lasting impact we can have on our loved ones. Gustavo passed away on February 1st, 1996, surrounded by his family at the hospital in El Cajon, California. His wife, Guadalupe, followed on December 6th, 1999, in Tecate. But their legacy lives on in the memories and the lives of those they touched.
It's a powerful reminder of how our actions and our love can ripple through generations. Gustavo's life was marked by hard work, ingenuity, and tenderness. He weathered challenges, embraced new experiences, and always kept learning. It's an inspiring example of how to live a full and meaningful life.
Absolutely. And I think there's something we can all take away from Gustavo's story. Whether it's his dedication to his work and community, his openness to spiritual experiences, his love for his family, or his lifelong curiosity, there are so many aspects of his life that can inspire us to live more fully.
I couldn't agree more. It's stories like these that remind us of the extraordinary nature of seemingly ordinary lives. Every person has a unique journey, filled with challenges, triumphs, and moments of wonder. Gustavo's story is a beautiful example of this.
And it's not just about the big moments, is it? It's also about the small, everyday choices like deciding to stargaze in your front yard or attending your grandson's concert. These are the threads that weave together to create a rich, meaningful life.
That's so true. And I think that's what makes this story so relatable and powerful. We may not all have experienced astral travel or founded community organisations, but we can all understand the joy of family gatherings, the wonder of learning something new, or the comfort of returning to our roots.
Well said. As we wrap up today's episode, I hope our listeners take a moment to reflect on their own lives and the legacies they're creating. What are the stories that will be told about us? What passions are we nurturing? What bonds are we strengthening?
Those are great questions to ponder. And perhaps Gustavo's story will inspire some of our listeners to dig into their own family histories, to ask questions of their elders, or to pursue that hobby or interest they've been putting off.
Absolutely. Because you never know, that hobby might turn into a lifelong passion, or that conversation with a grandparent might uncover a fascinating family story. Every life is extraordinary in its own way, and every story deserves to be told. And with that, we'll sign off for today. Thanks for joining us on this journey through one man's remarkable life.
It's been a pleasure. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep making your own magic.